Hello, everyone. This is an emergency Cohn Zohn live podcast. We usually only go once a week on Tuesdays. We're breaking our rule and coming back the next day on Wednesday because we owe Kyle Shanahan an apology. Both of us. We talked about him a lot yesterday and had some very hard things to say, and we would like to revise one of those things.
Yeah, I particularly owe him an apology. I had said yesterday that he's lacking in confidence and self-assurance because he doesn't give media people one-on-one interviews. Now, by the way, I still think he should do that, and I still think it's not to his credit that he doesn't do it. And I want to remind you, Kyle, if you're watching this is very important. Years ago, when the Raiders were playing in Denver, I flew in a day early, and I met your dad, Mike, early at the facility on a Saturday. He came in, and we sat alone in his office, and I interviewed him, and we set this up. So I interviewed your dad one-on-one when he was with Denver, and he'll tell you about that, and we got along very well. In any event, I was very hard on you in the original Cohn Zohn, and I want to issue an apology. First, Iggy, why don't you set it up?
Okay, so again, what you said is he doesn't do one-on-ones with the local media. He's given a one-on-one to his friend, Chris Sims, the former quarterback who's in media now, but that doesn't count.
Doesn't count.
Okay, so what happened was yesterday, Kyle Shanahan gave his Monday press conference, the day after the game press conference. It was Tuesday. They switched it up a little bit because of the bye week and because Eric Armstead has COVID-19 or whatever. He's on the COVID-19 list. Kyle wasn't even in the facility. He was at home on his laptop taking questions. And this is the longest one he does every week. It's like a 20-minute press conference. And these days, you can't just blurt out your question. You have to press a button that says raise your hand. So I pressed the button and I waited 10 minutes, 15 minutes. They weren't calling on me. They called on everyone else 2-3 times. I wasn't getting called on. And at one point, they actually unmuted my mic and then remuted it real quick, which made me feel like there was like an edict, don't call on Grant. So in the Zoom thing that you use, there's also a chat, which the beat writers, the PR staff, and the coach, the player can see, especially if you're at home at your laptop looking at it. So I write in, can I ask a question? And a couple minutes later, I hear the PR director say, last one. And it's for Jennifer Lee Chan, who's asking her like fourth question. So I write in real sarcastically, thanks, with an exclamation point. And as the PR director is going to end the conference call, Kyle Shanahan, I can see him looking on his screen at the chat. And he goes, go ahead, Grant. I see you down there. Ask your question. Then he gives a little smirk like this. And, I freaking love him for that. I love him for that.
I do too. And Kyle, I want to praise you. And I want to apologize for being so hard on you earlier. What you did showed, I have a lot to say about this, but I'm going to try to be orderly. It showed courtesy from one professional to another, and it showed that you were doing your job correctly and were being a professional head coach. Mm-hmm. So I want to praise you for that. And it also, you didn't know what Grant was going to ask. He could have asked something very volatile, and you had the courage to take the chance. In fact, Iggy, you asked a very vanilla question. Would you tell people what it was?
Yeah, he had announced that he's hopeful that Deebo Samuel, Raheem Mostert, and Richard Sherman come back. I'm the only person on the beat who thinks the Niners have any chance to compete this year. Every question is about Jimmy Garoppolo in 2021. And I kind of wanted to write an article about this year. So I said, Kyle, how big of a boost would it be to get those three guys back? And he went on for about a minute and a half about why it is helpful, but they're not going to beat the Rams because of any of those three players. They need the rest of the guys who've been around to step up. He basically gave his whole motivational speech to the team, to us. So I appreciated the answer.
Right. So he came through and he got positive reinforcement that if he allows you to ask a question, you're not trying to sabotage him. You're trying to give him a chance to explain himself, which is what any fair-minded journalist would do and any fair-minded coach would appreciate. Yep. Now, I'm going to get into some stuff and make some judgments. I want you to sit quietly.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out why you didn't get called on. Because, and this is going to lead to a larger issue, but I'm trying to, I think about things like this. So you didn't get called on. These are my possibilities. Because somebody in the PR staff is sore at you or doesn't like you and decided, screw Grant, I'm not going to call on him.
Yep.
That's a possibility.
Mhm.
Another possibility is Shanahan. Oh, there were two. They ran out of time and they didn't get to you. But people had multiple questions and you didn't have any. So
Right.
I ruled that out. Another is that Shanahan either indicated offhand, boy, I'm sore at Grant this week. Although you picked him to beat the Saints, so I don't know why he'd be sore at you. Or he gave a direct message: don't call on Grant.
Sure.
And then when you weren't called on, he was embarrassed. And also he felt it because he's fundamentally maybe a good guy. He felt this is ridiculous and this is unfair. So, okay. So Kyle, I apologize for being so hard on you and I praise you for what you did. And if I were in that virtual chat, I would have given you an attaboy because what you did is what every mature professional head coach or team manager would do. Now, I got some things I want to say. The NFL, and you may not know this, Kyle, but I'm going to give you some education now, is the most difficult league for any working journalist to cover. It's not even close. Iggy, you can jump in if you want, but let me just say a few things. When I was working, if I wanted to talk to Brian Sabian, let's say, I was at the ballpark, I would say to the PR guy, I'd like to talk to Brian. Come back in a minute and say, go to his private box. You know where his private box is. I'd go, Sabian would be there and say, hi, do you want a Coke? And we'd sit down for several innings. I'd ask him all my questions on the record and off the record because he understood the importance of journalism. When I wanted to talk to Larry Baer, he would come up to the press box. I'd get word. He'd come up, Lowell, what do you need? We'd find a private place in the press box. When I wanted to talk to Joe Lacob, I called him up. Listen, when I wanted to talk to Mark Davis, I called him up. Lowell, what do you need? Mm-hmm. This is how mature people do business. Now, Mark Davis is an exception to what I'm experiencing in the NFL and with the Niners. With the Niners, if you want to talk to somebody like Shanahan, who's never given Iggy a one-on-one, and he should, and if I were there, I would ask, and he probably wouldn't give me, and he should. If you want to talk to him, it's like trying to get in to the FBI or to the Pentagon. Yeah. What the hell is so secret about the NFL that they are an anti-media league?
They are.
When I one time went and interviewed Harbaugh when he first came in, a flack is a synonym for a PR guy. Mm-hmm. This flack sat in Harbaugh's office with me as if I were a danger to Jim Harbaugh. What, I was going to beat him up? He could have blown on me and I'd gone out the window.
No, it's also condescending to Harbaugh, as if he can't be trusted with his own words. He needs an editor right there who's like 29 years old. And you know what I mean? Like, get out of here. Go sit in the hallway. Yeah.
In addition, I knew Harbaugh better than this flack.
Yeah.
I knew him better. I knew Harbaugh for years. What's more, I had been in that office many times in my life. I didn't need some flack holding Harbaugh's hand and monitoring my conversation. In addition, there were things I wanted to ask Harbaugh off the record.
Yep.
I couldn't with this operative there. He changed the nature of what was going on. How did he know that Harbaugh wouldn't want to answer my off-the-record questions? Harbaugh and I had a relationship going back many years. Iggy, it pissed me off. And I still, as I talk about it, it makes me angry. And if that PR department was not allowing you to talk, that's akin to what they did to me. And it's not right. It's not the right thing to do. And it's not right. And it's not professional. Now, hold on.
I want to tell you a story real quick, and then you can get on to your next thing because it goes with this. Yeah. Last year, when I interviewed John Lynch one-on-one, we did it on Periscope. He agreed. Did I go through the PR staff? Hell no. If I had asked the PR staff, they would have said, no. Gee, Grant, sorry, Grant. What you do is you go right up to John Lynch as he's coming off the practice field. You say, John, can I interview you one-on-one on Periscope? He says, yeah, I have no idea what Periscope is. Let's do it, because he's a real man. So we do the whole thing. He gives me 10 minutes of his time. It's fantastic. Of course, the PR guy's there the whole time watching because you can't trust John Lynch to talk. I mean, who is John
He's
Lynch?
only a Stanford graduate, right?
Right. You got to be there to have but the best part is after we're done, John Lynch stands up and says, okay, I'd like you to leave now. I want to talk to Grant one-on-one.
Great.
I loved it. And, he had some serious things he wanted to talk about with me, and I'm not going to say what they were, but he didn't want that guy there, and I loved him for it.
Yes. Oh, Iggy, I didn't know that. I love him for it too. And that's how a team GM operates. Brian Sabian never had someone in, hold my hand while I'm talking to Lowell. Give me a break. And Brian Sabian would talk about players, their families. I mean, everything.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to get into the bigger point now, and I got my piece of paper here.
Okay.
Now I want to talk about the media and sports.
Okay.
Some of you watching say, why is Lowell making such a big deal about this? He's got such an ego. Who the hell cares about the media? The media is a pain in the neck. Who cares? And who cares how they get treated by a mere flack at a team? Who cares? Well, let me tell you something about the media. I'm talking about newspapers, radio, TV, and blogging, and whatever the hell else you can think about. We are the vehicles through which these major sports leagues reach the world. If we weren't around, you wouldn't know about Tim Lincecum. You wouldn't know about Jimmy Garoppolo. You would hardly know about them. People who are smart, who have wisdom. I'm going to come back. Bill Walsh, Dennis Erickson, Mariucci, Robert Saleh, grown-ups, people who have wisdom and intelligence, understand that it's in their interest to tell their story, to get it out there and to promote their league. It is narrow-minded people, insecure people like certain PR people around the NFL who are hurting the league. It used to be the most media-friendly league. Now it's clearly the least media-friendly league. And I'm going to say something else. For the Niners and the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants and the Green Bay Packers, if there were no media, a team like the Niners would be playing in Salinas.
Yep.
It would be a semi-pro team in Salinas. And without the media, the NFL would be a beer league.
Yes.
A beer team league. And so would Major League Baseball, and so would the NBA. But I want to say the NBA is phenomenal. The NBA is phenomenal in getting you together with their important people.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like the NFL's attitude is that they're so popular, media organizations will cover them no matter how ridiculous the restrictions are.
I would say absolutely. And yes, and their attitude is because we're so popular, screw you. Screw
Go
you.
cover basketball. Go cover baseball if you don't like it so much, because they'd love to have media at baseball games. They would. Please cover us. The NFL's attitude is, yeah, write about us, but don't come to our facility, ask us any questions, but write about us, please.
And don't watch practice.
Don't watch practice. Don't criticize us, but write every single day exactly what we want you to write.
Right. They want to control the narrative. Yep. And I got along with certain regimes at the 49ers and certain PR staffs, and I didn't get along with others because, like you, Iggy, I write my own goddamn narrative.
That's right.
I'm not interested in your narrative. You could tell it to me, but
yeah.
I'm not there to please you. And if you don't like my narrative, screw you.
And real quick, a history lesson. When you were coming up when you were getting started in sports journalism, football wasn't king in 1979. It was baseball.
Right.
It was baseball and boxing, right?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
And horse racing.
And horse racing. So the way that football became king was by opening itself up and inviting the media in. That was Pete Rozelle, right?
Pete Rozelle was from USF. He was a PR guy. He was a media genius and a very nice man. I never met him, but everybody told me. And what Ira Miller used to tell me, come, whatever you need, watch practice, whatever you need. We want you to feel you're part of our enterprise. Now they've turned that on its tush.
And Rozelle's attitude was, look, there's 53 players on a team. They're anonymous. Come learn who they are and write their
Yes.
story. They're wearing
Yes.
helmets. Show their face to the world. The game is complicated. Come watch practice and learn it. Now it's like, stay away, learn the game on your own, write the stuff that we want you to write. It stinks. And you know, the main reason that football is king is because of what Pete Rozelle did. And if they continue with this style of marketing and PR, they're going to fall behind another league eventually.
Yes, especially with their concussion problems.
Yes. They're going to fall behind basketball eventually is what's going to happen.
I agree. I'm going to tell you something else. Something that really used to annoy me when I used to, hear about Niners media availability, say, you can come and watch the players stretching. And then after that, you have to leave the field. What do I want to watch the players stretching? What do I care? Yeah, I could do deep knee bends.
So you can take attendance and see who's there and who's not. That's it.
That's it.
And a lot of guys do it, Dad.
Fine. I understand the virtue of, I'm not putting media guys down.
No.
I understand it's important to take attendance. Then you have questions to ask, but you'd also like to see practice. I mean, come on. Good
question from Mr. Vegemite, our number one fan in Australia. He says, will locker room access ever come back now? Dad, what do you think?
Okay, here's what I think. We're just talking about the NFL for a moment. I have my doubts, Iggy. I have my doubts. I think they're going to say, I think it's possible they're going to say, this worked really well. There's no need for you to come down during the week. We'll just do Zoom and we'll give you the players we want. It's not like you're going to go in the locker room and go up to anybody you want. We'll give you 2 or 3 players that we feel we'd like you to talk to. And I say there's a 60-40 chance that's how it's going to be.
It's 100% chance, Dad. We're never getting back in that locker room. Once they take access away, they don't give it back. It's over.
You say it's 100%.
And they're going to say what you said. 1, it was really convenient. Didn't you like it? Because we liked it. 2, it's a safety issue. It's a safety issue. You know what I mean? We still got COVID running around. I mean, until we have that eradicated from the earth, they're going to fight. It's a public safety issue. Sorry, no, you can't come back in. Maybe next year. It's not going to happen.
That makes me very sad.
Yeah.
And it makes me glad I'm out of the business.
Yeah. Really, Dad, I've had the best year ever covering this team, and I've done 99% of it from my bedroom. I'm in my bedroom right now. Behind this is my closet. Over there is my bed. And really, no one has better coverage than me. I'm 40 miles away from the. It's a joke. It's a joke. But what options do I have, Dad?
Well, you have your living room. How come you're not in your living room?
Well, because my wife is here sometimes. And I don't want to relegate her to the bedroom. So I'm stuck in my little hole and she can walk around. Although she's not here. She's at work. It's just, I don't know. I like it here.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. You're in your bed. I'm in my office downstairs.
Everett Kramer just sent us a $30.
Ev, I love you, Ev.
Yeah, you're the greatest, Ev. The Cohns are the Jedi rebellion of the NFL football wars empire. Yes. We are Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke Skywalker going against the Death Star. The NFL is the Death Star.
I want to say one other thing. If Iira Miller were still here with us, I don't mean he died. He's near Chicago, but we covered the Niners together in the 5 Super Bowls. He would have been more insistent and more aggressive than Iggy and me. He was really something. And I felt that certain players were really maybe even intimidated by Iira. And when Iira and I talk about
I'm intimidated by Iira.
You're intimidated, right?
That guy, I've never seen someone enjoy confrontation more than him. And that includes you. He likes it more than you do, and you love it. Can I tell my Iira Miller story real quick?
Is it the one about the hotel?
Yes, it's my favorite story.
Okay.
And then
tell it.
Then there's a couple of breaking news things that I'd like to talk about real quick.
Okay, but it's the hotel story, right?
So we're going to address Takk McKinley. We're going to address Javon Kinlaw. Hold on, guys. But this is the Iira Miller story. Okay, 2011, my first road trip. This was back when I was making $1,000 a month at the PD, and my dad would pay for me to come on the road for him because he was lonely. And we had a good time. So we fly to Washington. It's like Maryland. No, it's Virginia. We're staying in like freaking Virginia. And we're meeting up with Iira for dinner because he's retired, but he still likes to do the road trips. And he heard you were coming. So he's like, hey, look, I'll fly in from Chicago. Let's do it. So we get to I'm 23. I've never done this before. I didn't know what to expect. We get to the hotel. Ira's walking down. He comes down, not the elevator, but the staircase. And he's got this big smile on his face. So the smile was confusing and the staircase was confusing. And you say, hey, Iira, why are you walking down the stairs? And he goes, with the biggest smile, he goes, oh, elevator's broken. Elevator's broken. I had to walk down 15 flights of stairs and I'm sick. And it was like the greatest news ever. And you were like, well, why is that good? He said, well, I get to complain now. Watch this. And he walked over with this real nice smile. And there was a young man at the front desk. And he said, what can I do for you? Thinking that Ira's going to be happy with that smile. And he goes, oh, I'd like to speak to your manager. Goes, oh, okay. He was like Christmas for him. I was like, oh, I get to complain? I get to talk to the manager? I had so much, because at 23,
it was more.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
He would have demands. He would say, I want a free night and I want 50,000 points.
Yes.
He didn't just want to complain.
No.
He wanted to make out. So he, would say, look, I'm a gold or whatever kind of card holder I am for life, and titanium. I'm titanium for life. I'm sick and I had to walk down. I want a free night and I want 50,000 points. And the guy went, yes.
Of course. And he'd get it. Yeah.
And he was in such a good mood all that night.
And that is the old school, true journalist, the kind of guy who wants to create problems, not the kind of guy who wants to go with the flow. What I've noticed is modern beat writers want to go with the flow. They want to be cool with the team. They want to be cool with the athletes. Not Iira. Iira, nah. He'll set the rules. You'll come to him. I loved it.
Well, I think I've told you before, I'll give you one other Iira story. I was in the locker room and we used to talk to Brent Jones. Brent Jones he can't help but be friendly. So it was lunchtime. All the players, Ronnie Lott, it was all the players were there and we were just either sitting or hanging. I think we were sitting in chairs and and Brent was in his locker room. We were just chatting and Jerry Rice was pissed about something. And he comes and stands about 10 feet away from Iira and he goes, Iira, I want to talk to you, like that. And Iira looks up and he says, Jerry, can you see that I'm talking to Brent now? He says, when I'm done with Brent, I'll come and talk to you.
And Jerry's like, okay, that's a good point.
And he goes, oh, all right. All right.
Yeah,
So,
all right.
when I'm done with Brent, I'll go talk to you.
Real quick, Sean Shepard just gave us a $10 tip. Thank you so much, Sean. You're always so generous. Did the PR?
I never get any of these tips, but okay.
True. Did the PR interview process change after Chris Culliver? Remember, he said that no sweet stuff in the locker room at the Super Bowl when asked if there were any. Anyway, you guys are just reporting what used to be. Everyone wants to be so non-offensive. They don't want the truth. I appreciate it. No, this is a phenomenon that started before Chris Culliver. It started with Jim Harbaugh. We like Jim Harbaugh, but practices were open to the media until Jim Harbaugh got there. And I remember on the first day that they shut down practice, Matt Mayoko walked over to Jim Harbaugh in front of all of us as the senior beat writer and said, Jim, practices have been open since Bill Walsh has been the coach. They've never closed practices. Please reconsider this. And Jim actually said, well, maybe that's the reason why you guys haven't been winning much. Not going to change it. Maybe that's the reason why you guys haven't been winning much. He actually said that. So again, once you lose access, it never comes back. And it started before that. And I don't know where it comes from, but it seems to me that ever since Bill Belichick became the greatest coach of all time,
I agree.
It's a copycat game, a copycat league, and he's notorious for allegedly using espionage. So I think a lot of teams have looked at it as like, well, we got to shut down. We don't know. And we got to be like him. So I don't know. I think really Bill Belichick has done irreparable harm to the league. And
I agree.
Two of the most important people in league history, Bill Belichick, Al Davis, will have a negative impact on it and a negative legacy as opposed to Bill Walsh.
Al Davis sued the league.
Al Davis sued the freaking league. Yeah. Sorry, Al. Okay, so there's a couple of breaking news things with the Niners that I'd like to talk to you about real quick. First, they signed Karis McKinley, who was a former first-round pick, and two, Javon Kinlaw went on the COVID list. So let's talk Kinlaw first. It's like a whoa, but it's to be expected because Eric Armstead tested positive and people are in contact. They're in the same meeting room. And what I want to say is, assuming that he's okay and gets over it, now's the perfect time because they have a bye week. He can get over it and play. He may not miss any time, but if he does, the Niners are in trouble because he was their best player against the Saints on defense.
That's big news, Iggy.
It is news. So
And Iggy, uh, in fairness, this is a team that has suffered so many injuries this year.
Yeah.
They don't need this. Now, I hope Kinlaw's okay. I hope Armstead's okay. I mean, that's in a way, that's more important than the team,
Right.
but the team also doesn't need it.
No, it doesn't. But to have some type of silver lining, it is a very dangerous virus. You never know how it's going to react, how any person is going to react to it. But assuming that Kinlaw and Armstead bounce back the way that Kendrick Bourne and Fred Warner did, they should be okay by next week. So I guess it's like the perfect timing.
Sure.
The kind of silver lining you hope for in the weirdest year of all time. So it's a big deal, but it would have been worse if it had happened last year. This doesn't mean that Kinlaw is going to miss any time, or Armstead either, for that matter. So wait and see. The other thing is to Karis McKinley. He went to UCLA. He's from Oakland, which means we're basically the same. I don't think he went to high school in Oakland, but he grew up in Oakland. First round pick in 2017, has a bunch of sacks in his career. The Falcons are terrible. He wanted off the team. I guess he's seen as a malcontent. They couldn't trade him. They cut him. The Bengals picked him up. They failed his physical, and now the Niners picked him up. So I was talking to our cousin, who happened to be a former coach in the NFL, our cousin, and he was saying, teams fail physicals for all different reasons. Some teams have very high standards and like to fail physicals, or they'll fail a guy's physical for another reason. Maybe they'll bring him into the organization and not like his personality and say, failed your physical. The Raiders did that. They signed Roger Saffold, then failed his physical. I think they had second thoughts about whether they wanted to give him all that money. Anyway, the Niners are the opposite. The Niners really have lax standards. They've brought in a lot of guys who probably would fail physicals on other teams. Jason Verrett, Richard Sherman coming off the torn Achilles. So this fits in with their pattern of taking chances. And I don't think they're going to fail his physical. And if he actually is healthy enough to play, it's like a godsend. He would instantly become their best edge rusher and replace Dee Ford. Be great.
Iggy, is he a good edge rusher?
Yes. He's a hell of an edge rusher. Good athlete and a Bruin.
Did he play this season?
He's played 4 games this year. Only 4 games. He has 1 sack. Last year he had 3.5. The year before that he had 7. The year before that he had 6. So he's good. He's not great, but it's better than what they got.
Why did he only play 4 games? And has he been out? Did he play early and he's been out since?
Feuding with the team. I don't know that much about Karis McKinley. I'm just learning, but he's been feuding with the Falcons. They're bad. He's in his prime. He wants out. I guess he's also a year away from an extension, hasn't gotten one. So he's mad. So now he should be happy. He's on a team that wants him, that's not going to fail his physical probably. And if he plays well the next 6 weeks, he'll get a contract. So it seems like a win-win unless I'm missing something.
Iggy, if he plays against the Rams and he can really put pressure on Jared Goff, you may win a bottle of Zinfandel from me.
That still stands.
Oh, absolutely.
That still stands. Well, look, he can't play offensive line. That's going to hurt me. It's going to hurt my chances of winning this bet. But edge rush, it couldn't hurt.
It couldn't hurt.
It couldn't hurt. All right. Well, good luck to Karis McKinley, who is basically my twin. We've had basically parallel upbringings. It's really nice to see someone like me make it in the world. And by the way, speaking of someone like me, I just learned today that there is a high school senior who's going to be a catcher at Tulane next year named Grant Cohn. What a name. What a player. I think he's going to make it in the MLB, Dad. He seems like he's got that certain je ne sais quoi.
And he spells Cohn, C-O-H-N.
Yes. So I've already reached out to him on Twitter and asked if I could interview him about what it's like to go through life named Grant Cohn, because he's the only other person who can empathize with my plight, with my condition.
If you can get him, would you do a video with him?
Yes. I don't know if he's interested though. He might hate me. Maybe he went on Twitter a couple of years ago and to start his account and realized I existed, and he's like, "Who is this guy?" So sorry.
Right. He thought he was unique as Grant Cohn,
No.
And then there's this other Grant Cohn,
10 years older than him. Yeah, sorry, buddy. I got to the name first. You're a little late, but we want to talk about what we have in common or what we don't. Open invitation.
Okay. Right. Look, I want to thank, if you don't mind, Iggy, I'd like to thank everybody for dropping whatever you were doing and tuning into this emergency Cohn Zone. And again, Kyle, I admire what you did with Grant. Thank you, and I apologize.
Thank you so much, Kyle. I really appreciate it, and I'll never forget it. Thank you. We'll be back on Tuesday, unless there's another emergency, but I don't anticipate it. This was a special emergency.